So I bought 7 grams of dried mushrooms and I started to microdose them, and I took them on the Friday, a small amount, and they didn't really do much. So I took the similar kind of amount on the Saturday and it didn't really do much. So I think I had about 2 grams on Friday, 2 grams on Saturday, and then I had about 3 grams left on Sunday. And I'd already kind of come to the conclusion that they were not very strong mushrooms. So I actually took the remainder of the 3 grams. And I did actually have some quite strong effects from that. I basically had a 5-hour journey, so it was definitely not a microdose. Some of the lessons that basically came through that, which were very interesting, was that I could really see the benefit of long-term psychotherapy, which I've been doing for decades now, and meditation, which I've also been doing for decades. The inner voice that I was experiencing when stuff was coming up from my subconscious and I was being drawn into this trip was a very benign one, very positive and supportive. It wasn't a shaming, harsh, critical voice, which I'd had as a teenager in my trips. And this was also the first time I'd ever done a trip just lying down in the dark on my own with my eyes shut as well. There were a lot of very strong visuals, but also just a lot of working through. It was like condensed psychotherapy, and it was done with a real sense of kindness, which I didn't have inside me before in my younger years for sure. And one thing that came through on this trip was a message that was things like ayahuasca, which I pursued before, things like proper doses of mushrooms, perhaps 3 grams of dried mushrooms or whatever. They do seem to be shortcuts, and I think that people in our culture are drawn towards instant gratification. And I know when we have social anxiety, we're really desperate for breakthroughs. You know, when I was younger, I took drugs to get off my head. But then when I was older, in my 20s and up in my 30s, I was taking ayahuasca and DMT with a view to learning stuff and trying to heal myself. I needed some change. I wanted transformation. And this insight, my last trip last Sunday, was that basically it told me that you're on the right path. You have been on the right path. There's no need to rush it. Just slow, gradual transformation, meditation, psychotherapy, it is working, you know. And I had always been a little bit skeptical with psychotherapy because sometimes you walk away and you think, I just gave that guy £55 for 50 minutes and I don't think it did anything. I don't feel that different. This is a con. Sometimes you really doubt the process, but this trip on Sunday really affirmed for me, you are changing from the inside out. Things are just going from strength to strength, and this has been a long, gradual process. Yeah, you might be able to shortcut the process or to get some rapid insights through psychedelics, but it does also come at a risk. You know, every time you do psychedelics, there is also that slight fear of, am I going crazy? And I had very strong trips where I took reckless amounts of psilocybin in my teens when I was like 17 in Amsterdam, and with a bunch of mates we went on a horrific 9-hour super intense trip, and I wondered if I had gone schizophrenic. I was seriously fearing that I would never come back to reality and so on. And I know of friends who've had very strong experiences and it's taken them months and months to come back to a normal, comfortable state of consciousness. So there is always that risk. And during this trip, I was aware of that. It's kind of a bit of an unnecessary risk now. You're on the right track. Just keep faith with what you're doing. Psychotherapy, meditation, keep developing this bond with the person within yourself. Keep cultivating this friendship and this inner love for yourself, and that will stand you in very good stead, and you're heading in the right direction. So I'm not trying to squash anybody watching this who's very excited and enthusiastic about doing psilocybin. There is a lot of stuff in the media, people like Andrew Huberman, people like Sam Harris, people that I really respect and listen to and value their opinion. They are talking about the benefits of psilocybin for sure. The other thing is that every time I trip, I'm always reminded it is risky, and I don't think it's really suitable for people who are younger, who are in their teens, who haven't done a lot of internal work before, who really know a lot of almost, you know, that every aspect of their subconscious in some way, or have done some thorough internal investigation and thorough internal work. It can be very scary. It really can. You are taking your consciousness and your mental health and everything into your hands. And I remember the first time I ever smoked a DMT pipe, there's just that fear just goes through you of like, oh God, what have I done? You know, like, is this going to be okay? And I don't think that's me just being wet. I think there's always that fear when you take psychedelics of, oh my God, it's massive and it's unpredictable. You never really know how you're going to trip, even though you may have done it many times before. All these things I was reminded of during my trip on Sunday. So this is just my experience of taking psychedelic mushrooms last Sunday in my early 40s. So make of it what you will. I'm not trying to persuade anyone one way or another. What I would say for social anxiety sufferers, it is very risky. If you're high anxiety, my feeling is that all your negative states of mind are going to be amplified by the mushrooms. Whereas if you take something like MDMA, you are going to invariably have an overwhelmingly positive experience. That's almost, and the same with alcohol, it's almost impossible not to. Whereas with LSD and psychedelics, DMT, psilocybin, if you're nervous and paranoid, have a weak sense of self and so on, when you take the drug, it can really send you on a hell ride and will probably amplify your baseline state of anxiety and your baseline state of consciousness, which if it's a negative one, then that's going to be very uncomfortable. So I'll wrap it up here. That's all I wanted to share with you for this video. Please stay tuned to the channel. Lots more videos coming, and hit me up in the comments and let me know what you think.